3. Keep the mind discerning and alert. Human body, with its innumerable characteristics, is a unique gift of the Creator to man. However, it is the responsibility of the beneficiary to protect and preserve it for one's own sake. One is free to move about naked as a deranged person and be an object of ridicule. On the other hand, having taste, one may make the same body attractive and presentable by covering and decorating it with beautiful clothes. The decision depends on one's own choice and sense of dignity. There is only one criterion by which God evaluates the wisdom and worthiness of man, and that is whether one is capable of demonstrating one's efficiency and progressiveness. The possibilities of effective progress, or on the contrary decadence, appear only after this endeavor. Indolence, lethargy is man's greatest enemy. It makes a living body equivalent to a dead one. How is it possible for the body to run by itself and do useful work, when the owner refuses to be active, courageous and industrious? People find it difficult to look at one's own shortcomings, nor do they make any attempt to improve on them. As a consequence, though they somehow drag on a monotonous existence, in absence of habit of perpetual industriousness, hardly any achievement is made which could be called creditable. When after overpowering body, indolence also engulfs mind, the state of negligence, pramad, begins. When it happens, one becomes indifferent to the consequences of regression and hardly ever feels an urge for improvement. Because of this inertia, the outlook of the person becomes narrow, giving rise to a state in which neither there emerges an urge to learn new things nor for formulating plans for a more firm and prosperous future. When people with such an outlook become aware of their lowly deprived status, they try to ascribe it to some extraneous reasons and find consolation in such abstract concepts as destiny, consequences of irregularity in religious rituals, will of God, adversity of circumstances and unfavorable planetary configurations. Others find scapegoats in irregularities of administrative system, society, environment, the prevailing environment of extreme decadence of values, Kali Yuga, or some particular individuals, and considering them responsible for the maladies develop an antipathy for them. The lazy and indolent person somehow continue to pass uneventful day in this state of misery and undesirable concepts in mind. Apart from the above class of people, one comes across a large number of persons having yet another distorted concept. They remain in a constant delirium of being a victim of misfortunes, for which they are found ever irritable. Dissatisfaction with the environment produces indignation which has a profound effect on everyday life. The number of adversaries of such persons suddenly increases. The trouble begins when some action is planned against the so-called enemy, or conversely when, because of the prevailing environment of mutual suspicion, the other party makes a mountain out of a molehill. Thus begins the evil cycle of attacks and counter-attacks. Consequently, the entire process of contemplation becomes confined to this labyrinth of aggressive actions, and the total capacity of planning is wasted within this narrow outlook. In such an environment, little scope is left for thinking about ways, means and directions for progress. Hate and vengeance are responsible for misutilization of invaluable energy resources of man exclusively in destructive and disintegrated activities. Yet another big obstacle in progress, which deprives man of more than half of his energy, is greed, desires and their satiation for which there is no end. Sex is one of them. Copulation is only a small fraction of sexual indulgence which gets satiated within a few moments, but the related sexual obscenity, however, continues to dominate the mind as vulgar imageries now and then, and does not let it conceptualize anything utilitarian. Similar is the craving for wealth, which does not ever get weakened at any limits of acquisition. The set of lofty ambitions too has the same effect on man, which continues to be a mania of exhibitionism of superiority and a rat race for showing one's greater authority by acquisition of more and more powers. Days and nights of such persons are spent in perpetual restlessness. We are aware of the state of mind of candidates contesting an election. The foregoing are states of troubled mind which apparently find an expression in worry, despair, apprehension, fear, anger, fits of temper, tension, and so many other forms. The root cause for these psychic aberrations may be grouped broadly under four heads, namely, 1. Enmity, 2. Sexual indulgence, 3. Satiation of desires, and 4. Utopian lofty ambitions. The more one suffers from these maladies, the greater he would remain in state of insensibility and irresponsibility, like a drunkard under the influence of hard liquor. The mind of such a person would appear sick, and the body as one who remains without meals on imposed fast. In other words, persons suffering from laziness, lethargy, lassitude are considered weak and incompetent for any significant achievement. If in addition they also become victims of selfishness, sensuality, and erratic lofty ambitions, it should be considered as a compounded misfortune. Since such persons are unable to organize even their personal life, they find it all the more difficult to plan for a higher level of progress. They are also unable to seek avenues for earning distinction in society by participating in schemes of social welfare. There is only one way to get rid of these maladies, and that is to cast away the elements of incongruities and imbalance from body and mind and maintain such an equilibrium which could help in cultivating prudence by deep penetration, so that it becomes possible to seek amicable solutions to problems. Such is the frame of mind necessary for seeking and moving on the path of progress. For making proper use of physical and mental gifts of the Creator in a right manner, it is necessary to remain in a cheerful state. The mind should always be kept discerning and alert. It is necessary to exercise self-restraint, develop discernment, and thereby be fully aware of future consequences of actions. In one word, this state of mind is known as talent, pratibha. Only talented persons are capable of thinking about many facets of problems on the basis of existing facts and manage to govern their own as well as others' activities to establish a well-organized system for alleviation. The mentally indolent persons associate with any scheme of work only in the initial stages, and postpone the remaining part for some indefinite time in future, when they expect someone else to take up their responsibility. Consequently, the little accomplishment which they make in the initial stages also does not bring them credit, and instead makes them an object of ridicule and disgrace. Whatever assignment responsible persons undertake, they look after all its aspects, and maintaining interest and enthusiasm from beginning to an end give a proof of their total involvement and efficiency. For cultivation of talents, an acutely discerning mind is required. A beginning is made by taking care of the twin machinery of body and mind. Since the body is expected to perform significant tasks for a long period throughout life, like a machine it should be operated in such a way that it continues to work without breakdowns, and the efficiency of performance is maintained. It requires merely a watch on retention of proper balance in matters related to food, rest, and physical activities. Care of these three variables related to body ensures perfect health. The first step towards cultivation of talents is, therefore, taken by giving emphasis to preservation of health. Next comes the thought process, chintan, which is to be kept under harness. To arrive at right conclusions and thereafter for taking appropriate decisions, it is necessary to keep the mind free from stress and excitement, since it is a quiet mind which makes pragmatic schemes, and until a well-balanced plan is formulated, it cannot be implemented in a manner indicative of the efficiency and excellence of the person doing it. Only those schemes succeed which are admired and bring credit to the planner. With the organization of functions of body and mind, one covers the initial half of success in external facets of life or in the matters of world without. Since body and mind are constant companions, One can easily appraise their status at any opportune moment and plan actions for improvements according to need when a constant endeavor is made to develop the sharpness of mental faculties by way of twofold actions involving training, sadhana, of body by binding it in discipline and taking right decisions on activities within a very short time. Sharpness of intellect increases manifold, which enables the person solve problems easily and choose the right way to name, fame and success. Another proof of development of an organized mind is seen in the cleanliness and orderly way of arrangements of articles of daily use. Clean and properly worn clothes are indicative of organizational skill of the person wearing them. Pen, paper, books, shaving kit, shoes and slippers, bedding, utensils, soap etc. are many such articles of daily use, methodical arrangement of which shows the systematized state of mind of the person. Next comes the house, office with its equipment, and furniture which should neither be kept in a non-functional state nor thrown about here and there in a disorderly manner. Orderly arrangement of articles constitutes essential ingredient of interior decoration. Disorderliness of a person shakes the confidence of an onlooker, who begins to doubt the credibility of the concerned person in carrying out any assignment responsibly, perseveringly and successfully. A constant care should be taken to remove dirt and garbage and for repair of broken and non-functional articles. Generally the owner leaves such jobs for servants or others on excuse of shortage of time, overlooking the advantage obtained by incorporation of orderliness in nature and expertise in practice. In this context it is not relevant whether the responsibility transferred to others is big or trivial. When intimately personal work is entrusted to someone else, one cannot be fully assured that it would be appropriately performed at the right time. Besides, shirking responsibility sets a bad example of indolence for other associates. The habit of passing on responsibility of small jobs to others for own convenience, thus, creates big obstacles in development of personal talent and refinement of organizational skill.
4. Basic principles for development of organizational skill. Area of one's personal influence depends on management of three variables: physical, namely body; behavioral pattern; contemplative attitude, chintan; and resources, at command successively. With the help of these three attributes, men become great and make big achievements. Personal characteristics, gun; behavioral pattern, karma; and pattern of transactional response or nature, swabhav, of the person, also reflect the same. Refinement of gun, karma and swabhav produces miraculous results by virtue of which enmity is quelled and indifference transformed into friendship. A vicious person tends to reduce the number of supporters, admirers and associates and faces an increasingly bigger number of adversaries. Such persons have nothing to gain. Fire initially destroys things in its neighborhood and then spreads beyond. The same is true about vices. Apparently, they appear incapable of doing much harm to the individual, but indirectly create an environment of antagonism and distrust which does not help anyone. Indiscipline of speech is the most dangerous enemy of man. The habit of downgrading or condemning others by unjust criticism, ninda, and backbiting, chugli, creating an environment of antipathy, malice casts doubts on the trustworthiness of the person in keeping secrets. Persons prone to those habits are so much undependable that even their own kith and kin hesitate to trust them about their intimate personal matters. The adverse consequences of anger and agitation, avesh, or retaliatory emotional outburst become immediately visible. Within moments of speaking bad words, the counteracting reply of the adversary is retorted more forcefully. At times, the effect of bad words is catastrophic. It becomes a permanent cause of enmity and in course of time inflicts serious harm to the speaker because of reprisals. The sarcastic words spoken by Draupadi against Duryodhan, in course of time became the causative factor for the widespread devastation in the war of Mahabharata. Intemperate speech and insulting behavior are products of combined reactions of personal ego and disrespect for the other person. Both are equally powerful in producing dangerous consequences. The speech emanating from combination of these two factors may on the face of it appear inconsequential, but at times produces an unbridgeable chasm of hatred between persons. Words which are spoken with civility and humility are always full of politeness and pleasantry. They have enough power to pacify tempers. Soft-spoken persons have often been found bringing together enemies and beginning a new chapter of goodwill. Discarding some bad habit and converting it into a good one requires only a few days. Carefully chosen words spoken calmly and humbly, keeping the dignity of other person in view, can be seen producing instant favorable, pleasant reactions. The art of speaking with civility, humility and pleasantry needs only few days' practice. Bad speech should not be considered less dangerous than the fangs of a snake or sting of scorpion. If such a habit has become imbibed in behavior even in a small degree, strong measures should immediately be taken for its reformation. Proverbially, it would amount to transmutation of a croaking crow into a sweet singing nightingale. Lack of self-restraint is yet another name for disorderliness of body and mind. It may also be seen as a natural resistance to discipline and a tendency towards recklessness. Such traits make a person personally and socially irresponsible and create far-reaching disastrous consequences. Absence of moderation may also be viewed as a habit of dispensing available useful resources for meaningless, unproductive or counterproductive schemes. With it, a person behaves like a fool who, exposing the security of riches, tempts dacoit to loot. There are 4 types of lack of self-restraints. 1. Indriya asayam, indiscipline of senses. 2. Samaya asayam, indiscipline of time. 3. Arth asayam, indiscipline of resources, wealth. 4. Vichar asayam, indiscipline of thinking habit. These are like leaks in the vessel of human existence from which significant powers bestowed by God continue to drain continually. When these leaks are sealed, the powerful emanations of energy emerging from within the self and showering like divine grace from above make anyone competent and capable of performing extraordinary feats. It is found that men at large tend to weaken their health by overindulgence in savor. Such persons meet with untimely death on account of infirmity and sickness. A control over tongue and organ of sensuality preserves the competence of body and makes mental faculties acute and sharp. Management of resources must be judiciously carried out by following simple living and high thinking. Following the average living standards of one's countrymen, anyone can live happily and satisfactorily with honest means of earning. Time and life are not inseparable. If every moment of life is considered as an invaluable gem and utilized for a fruitful objective, each one of us can achieve many times more than what is normally possible in one's lifetime. Busy persons have no time to think about mischief, nor there appears for them any possibility to learn evil habits in bad company. In ideas or thoughts, which is hidden powers of immense potentiality. A habit of continuous conceptualization of high aspirations and great utilitarian schemes eliminates possibilities of decadence and gradually builds up a background for an all-round progress. Positive thinking prepares the ground for interaction and direction needed for success and provides avenues for availability of resources. The 4 types of indiscipline mentioned earlier deprive man of numerous inborn capabilities. While safeguarding them, one protects the invaluable celestial treasures bestowed by God. Generally, establishment of any organized system and learning of organizational skill requires training in some workshop, industrial establishment, administrative department, or business organization. This facility may not necessarily be within the reach of an aspirant. Besides, even if this arrangement is available, it does not necessarily ensure availability of requisite resources and assistance. Keeping these extraneous constraints in view, the easiest way is to practice organization of one's own self to make it adaptable to any environment. One has full control over one's own body. With a little pressure of willpower, the body can be made to act in any manner. Once the body is bound in disciplines, one gets an access to the fountainhead of strong health and long life. If the tendency of extravagance is curbed, even with limited earnings one can make an appropriate budget and live a happy and contented life. When time is not wasted, extraordinary success can be obtained in matters pertaining to qualification, wealth and resources. One has full freedom to generate one's own ideas independently. This invaluable natural capacity, if not squandered recklessly, can be used for some creative activities, and with it anyone can achieve unprecedented success for desired objectives. It may be difficult to persuade, advise, support or reform someone else, but in one's own reformation and improvement, there can hardly be any other obstacles than lack of will or power of determination. With courage and farsightedness one can upgrade not only physical and mental efficiency, but also improve virtues, actions and behavior, gun, karma and swabhav. It is very much possible to change or reform one's confirmed habits. The environment in which one prefers to live is chosen by one's own self. If desired, one can totally change personal environment. Just like the voluntarily chosen substandard environment of the past which became responsible for the present misery, one can also select a superior motivating milieu for progress in future. Close transactions with ethically elevated persons together with a refined environment open umpteen possibilities for progress and upgradation in life. Systematic arrangement of personal articles is the first lesson in organization of self. The articles of use should be treated as study notes for examination papers, which are required to be kept and examined carefully. Any indifference towards them would make them appear substandard and irrelevant, and they would lose their utility before time. On the contrary, given due importance and orderly maintained, they provide instant useful service by commensurate return for the care taken. Systematically arranged articles reflect on the mental status of a person. They create an impression that the owner is civilized, cultured and a man of taste. On the other hand, haphazardly thrown articles indicate that the person is unsystematic and raw by the norms of a civilized society. It is irrelevant whether such an individual is wealthy, well educated, or otherwise. A family consists of many members. All are required to be trained in habits of cleanliness and made up to the mark. Some of them lack civility of behavior and create a bad impression on visitors. In the same way, articles of use, though dumb and inanimate, if kept in a dirty and disorderly manner, indirectly divulge the secret of the raw state of mind of the owner. Keeping articles in a disorderly manner none creates good impression simply by virtue of supremacy of wealth, status or education. Dirty, haphazardly kept, broken, non-usable articles indicate substandard mental makeup and ignorance of organizational skill of the members of the house. Like living persons, neglected articles too are always on the lookout for the earlier opportunity for an exit, that is, they become disposable. It hardly matters whether they become property of someone, or are sold in a junk market. People are in the habit of losing old useful things on account of carelessness in proper maintenance and replace them at a cost at which many other useful and necessary articles could have been purchased. To sum up, first lesson in civilized living teaches us to keep household and other articles of use tastefully in a planned and systematic manner. Once this much is achieved, it is understood that significant lesson has been learnt in organizational skill. This process may also be considered as learning primary alphabets of spirituality. Only a disciplined and organized person can hope to become a successful spiritualist.
5. In order to be pragmatic, consider past and future environments. When a person begins to contemplate deeply and critically into the details of one's existing environment and its projections in future, it may be considered a major step in the direction of progress. Problems likely to arise in future must be anticipated well in advance and suitable steps taken to seek their solution with adequate preparation. In order to make the future brighter, it is necessary to formulate such a plan of action which can be advanced in the present environment exclusively with the existing resources. Any decision for firm pragmatic action must be taken after projecting the existing environment into its likely future. Besides imbibing a progressive attitude, it is necessary to have a clear concept of the work in hand. Only by channelizing one's attributes of ever-readiness and total involvement it becomes possible to increase efficiency of mind and behavior in thoughts and practice. A successful completion of work benefits the doer in two ways. On one hand, his or her own level of confidence and courage increases, and secondly, other persons too begin to trust his or her superiority and eagerly look forward to either give greater assistance or reciprocally seek help. The above attributes are positive indications of a better future. Each person known to be talented invariably has superb organizational skill. The blueprint of an organization is made after assessment of its contemporary requirements and possible needs of future, and a realistic planning is carried out for each stage of development with provisions for appropriate capacity. Simultaneously, one is also required to prudently seek ways and means for overcoming obstacles and make arrangement of logistics. Though it is possible to learn from experiments and experiences of past, it is not at all possible to succeed merely by imitating someone's style of functioning. Environments are perpetually undergoing change, and each one of us has his own characteristic way and style of working. By aping the methodology and line of action of a successful person, one may not necessarily achieve the same degree of success. One is, therefore, advised to plan one's actions according to one's own environment. It requires an independent frame of mind, farsightedness and prompt pragmatic approach. Choice of incompatible associates also does become a cause of failure. On the other hand, paucity of resources is hardly a constraint. Work can be accomplished even with few associates. Nevertheless, credibility of these persons must be of a higher order. However, for the selection of right type of workers, one must have the wisdom of making correct choice. A person with a lowly bent of mind and narrow point of view chooses persons of his own type, and since such persons can be easily enticed with promise of little returns, one feels inclined to take their help. As a consequence, whatever is achieved with the help of such persons is also substandard, and the performance is much below the mark. Hence, one is advised to choose appropriate type of associates for work. Where it does not appear possible, instead of taking the entire responsibility on one's own self in over-enthusiasm, it would be better to work as an associate of some system with proven organizational skill. In this process, one may get lesser remuneration, limited credit, or may even be deprived of fulfilling high personal ambitions, but augmentation of experience and prudence is decisively assured. Persons with narrow outlook are able to think barely of the objective in sight. They are not able to consider many other aspects related to the main issue. As a result, they become perplexed when coming face to face with an unexpected situation, and their activities come to a standstill. It provides an opportunity to conceited persons who are always on the lookout to prove their dubious worth. By rejoicing on failures of others, such persons add salt to the injury. A progressive person is identified by his or her attitude towards the associates. Besides taking into consideration one's own present and future problems in detail and arriving at some definite conclusions thereon, a progressive individual also adopts the same attitude towards the problems of associates. Such a person also keeps in readiness to meet their contingencies by taking advance actions. Those who remain indifferent to the necessity of comprehensive information and requisite experience fail in their endeavors. The wise and far-sighted persons who have a capacity of in-depth analysis make an attempt to find practical solutions to the problems. Agitated, impulsive and perpetually troubled persons often take such decisions in their unsteady state of mind, which only makes the situation more grave instead of alleviated. By keeping a cool mind, only one can succeed in solving small as well as big problems. Quite a few soldiers die or become wounded on a battlefront. Some of them are also favorites of or related to the commander-in-chief. If the latter begins to mourn the death and worry about each of them, he cannot formulate the tactics appropriately according to the constantly changing strategy of war and would expose both himself as well as his force to a potentially dangerous situation. Only those persons who remain calm and unexcited during situations of loss as well as of gain find it possible to make a correct assessment of the present environment and formulate an appropriate plan for the future. Equanimity is, therefore, absolutely necessary for any head of organization. Each endeavor needs an exchange of ideas, assistance and interchange of resources. This type of interaction is characteristic of human species only. Each member of human community differs from the other in biological characteristics. The temperament of any two persons may or may not be similar. The policy of mutual coordination of efforts, tolerance and adoption of an attitude conducive to development of an atmosphere of trust, attracting automatic voluntary assistance, is always helpful. Sensible are those who make an effort to make amends for the loss and befriend the alienated. Estrangement brings nothing but harm to either parties, whereas maintenance of an environment full of trust and goodwill is always beneficial. This aspect should be all the more clear to the managers of organizations where factions and dissensions are rampant. During a game of chess, one is required to keep an eye on all the pieces. The player concentrating on only immediate moves, disregarding the subsequent and consequent moves of all other pieces, is easily checkmated. Each assignment in this world is like a game of chess, and one is required to keep an eye on each related aspect. The conceptual capacity is to be enlarged to an extent wherein each possible change in situation is anticipated in detail. For starting a new industry or re-establishing a sick unit afresh by providing it a new direction, all related aspects are to be thoroughly analyzed and appropriate logistics arranged in minutest details. At times, even small omissions cause inordinate delays resulting in loss of time and money. Owners of work establishments are required to have a wide perspective encompassing all aspects of their organization. Supervision of production only is not sufficient. The entire process, beginning from procurement of raw material, liaison with the distributors of finished products and contact with the customers, is also to be kept in mind. It is also to be analyzed whether the quality and cost of the merchandise is competitive in the market. Advances and repayments of credits are also to be looked into. Only persons with such a sharp, analytical mind and broad perspective can successfully run a production unit and become managers. Others who are not able to consider more than one thing at a time, at the most become an ordinary employee in the unit and pass their entire life as a menial worker. Most of laborers engaged in construction of buildings remain as manual workers throughout their career. But those who have an analytical bent of mind learn about all aspects of construction activities, by virtue of which they first bid for smaller contracts and gradually become big contractors. The great change in status of two persons of identical qualifications is only a miracle of presence or absence of capacity of analytical conceptualization. Big meetings, public celebrations, festivals and family dinners necessitate large-scale multifaceted arrangements, with which are also associated great risks of failures or opportunities for earning credits, depending on the efficiency and talents of the organizers. Only those who have the capacity to conceptualize all aspects of a project in totality and arrange for all needs are acclaimed for success. Persons with a narrow perspective do not think of details. Consequently, minor mistakes in planning stage create major problems, and 90% of hard labor brings discredit because of the remaining 10% inadvertence for minor details. An organized mind is, therefore, expected to prove its efficiency by conceptualizing all aspects and activities of assigned work from beginning to an end in minutest details. A literator first conceptualizes the basic framework of the literature intended to be created and works hard to improve on it with repeated modifications till the best level is achieved. On the other hand, there are many who are unable to do it and bring out only ignominious, imperfect works. The same holds true in other fields of creation such as arts and crafts, sculpture and histrionics. Amongst various administrative designations, the status of a governor is considered most dignified. The word governor is more or less a synonym of manager. The degree of success of an individual and consequent fame is directly proportional to the proficiency of governance or management the person commands. In absence of appropriate managerial capacity, persons with ample resources have been found suffering from loss and failures. It is this special attribute, by virtue of which leaders look after their own personal affairs and simultaneously plan and put into action those schemes which provide them leadership in specific fields. The strategy of politicians during elections too is based on managerial expertise of political alignments and dissociations. In all fields of human endeavor, be it that of a farmer or an artist, whosoever achieves greater success, gets higher credits or rises in status, does so only on account of one's developed sense of managerial prudence. Persons prone to physical inaction and mental indolence are in no way different from those who lack competence. Such individuals, though make efforts, yet are unable to complete the assignment because of inadequacies of advanced planning and consequently suffer losses. Students who are indifferent to studies and are irregular during semesters have scant possibilities of success in examinations. Sportsmen too face failures for similar shortcomings. The art of living is like managing a big commercial establishment. Only those persons succeed in appropriate utilization of life and get increasing returns, who take recourse to detailed planning, pragmatic approach and systematic organization. Only those individuals who have the wisdom to shape their lifestyles by properly channelizing their time, energy, mental faculties and talents in the right direction by meticulous planning, are acclaimed by the world for their farsightedness. Daydreamers of utopian schemes spend their life in a state of perpetual despair and disappointment.